Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say, speaking of films that are okay and just all right, I actually ended up watching Solo, a Star Wars story.
What a
Um,
mouthful.
yeah, well, maybe that's part of the reason why nobody watched because I think several times, like I said that this film was like Star Wars Solo, but it's like no, it's Solo, a Star Wars story.
So does that
For
mean if
what?
they were going to continue doing their spin-offs, would it be like
Boba?
Boba Fett this as Star Wars story? Like the Star Wars story was going to be the thing that connects them all, I guess.
But then it's like were they gonna call the Obi-Wan film Kenobi a Star Wars film, or were they gonna call it Obi-Wan? Like that's these are the real
Well, that's the thing. They
questions.
can't they canceled that now. I'm pretty sure.
Which is a shame. Yeah, I think they've put all the kind of films on hold. I think they gave Kathleen Kennedy another 3 years, which a lot of people saw as a bit of a victory. But like again, they kind of gave her 3 years, from my understanding, because nobody else wants to take on the kind of, I guess, burning tire heap that is the
Star
Star
Wars.
Wars franchise
Well,
at the moment.
well, apparently, J.J. Abrams got was gifted it like 2 years ago or whatever, or like this year, the few months, and he's like, I don't want it.
Yeah,
He's like, no. So
yeah,
like,
yeah. That's what the rumors I've heard.
so I feel like once again, being a CEO of anything is hard work, or any creative director of sorts. And like and once again, Kathleen Kennedy to me personally doesn't have a really good track record. Like she's fired like a lot of directors, and like even especially with Solo and like the troubles of that, of like literally like 80% of it or something like that has been reshot. Like I feel like she's a bad.
Really, 80%?
It was
That's
it was it
crazy.
was like 50 to 80%. So
Oh,
it's a very large amount of it was reshot. Um, so like I don't think she's a good head for like Lucasfilm, but like once again, if no one is really wants to stand, like I wouldn't mind if George Lucas came back, like bring him back.
I actually I said this to a lot of people, and I'll say it again. Star Wars is in a bad place when people are asking for George Lucas to come back. Because people didn't like the original. Sorry, the I guess the prequel trilogy, but I never felt that the prequel trilogies weren't Star Wars, unlike these films. However,
Yeah, they do have a different
with
feel.
yeah, with Solo I did feel was a Star Wars film. Um, I think very much the case. There's a lot of parts of this film that I felt was actually really well done. But at the same time, like overall, like I kind of felt like this film was why? Like this movie should have been done with Harrison Ford, and it should have been done after episode 7,
Mm.
where we're kind of figuring out what's going on between like who is this Han Solo? Where did he come from? Why is he so popular? Let's find out.
Let's
Like
find out where he got his name Solo
oh God,
from.
I still cringe at that scene. Like when you told me about it during your review, I cringed, and when I watched it, I cringed as well. It just was so
Once again,
unnecessary.
it's the modern day like awkward like I don't know what it is, but it's that thing where it's like it's just so it just like it's stupid callback, like oh yeah, like we like instead of being like it's trying to subvert your expectations. And I think that was the problem
Mhm.
with episode 8. But like in a sense of instead of being like hey fans, instead of giving you what you really want, or like being like I want to know about the origins of like the Solo name, instead of making it into like this actually really good proud moment where it's like this really good thing and like really fun and like really understanding the character, it's like no, we're gonna play it as a laugh and a joke, and screw your expectations or like fan things of like what we want it to be, instead of being like some cool thing of like maybe his father did some really cool stuff and the Solo line is really cool, or like they're loyal people. It's like nah, he's Solo because he's by himself. Like
Yeah, yeah.
it's
It's
like
it's
oh
really
well, I
bad.
was like well that's stupid. Like why not just get rid of that whole thing entirely if it's gonna be that disappointing.
Yeah, like even if something as simple as like them saying that, you know how it kind of is in Game of Thrones, how Snow is the name of like a bastard child, and who was born up in the north, and then if you're last, but if you're a bastard child born in like the desert or like the other areas, it's the last name is Sand. It could have very much been the same way as like, people who are orphans refer to themselves as Solo. At least that is a little bit more understandable. It's like I'm Solo, and then when the officer hears that, like, his last name is Solo, he could have been like, oh, so you're an orphan then. So, like, that's like a much more better way. Like, again, this is what happens when
once again, it builds the world a little bit more, being like, okay, in this whole thing, it's like people alone are called Solo. Like, it makes the world more livable and believable instead of just like this weird, like, huh, I guess you're Solo.
Yeah. Like, and even then, like, I very much am the case that I didn't like the concept of Solo being used because, again, we're talking about like, in context, Solo is a word that's derived from like language on planet Earth. It shouldn't actually exist in like the Star Wars universe. It kind of it becomes a little bit too meta, because again, it's like, oh, like they're using like a galactic word is using Solo. In basic, they call it basic in the Star Wars universe, and it's like, okay, so there's a basic word for the word Solo, and that's why they're using the word Solo. It just seems very much like it's far too much of a meta joke, and I really don't like it because it takes me out of this being in a galaxy far, far away. It breaks the immersion too much. But that's like the more egregious thing. I think most of the film is actually not that bad. I actually thought I wasn't gonna like, Aiden Ehrenreich. Sorry, Alden Ehrenreich.
Eldon
Uh,
Ehrenreich,
Alden.
whatever his name
As
is.
Yeah, I didn't think I'd like him as Han Solo, and honestly, I think he did a good job. Like, I don't think it is different to the character that we see played by Harrison Ford, but I think it's very much of like he's like young and he's got a lot of energy, a lot of spunk, and the world hasn't kind of gone to shit in his eyes yet. Which I kind of feel like is justified by the end of this film, like how he kind of turns into a more cynical, oh, I hate the galaxy, I hate things, like, he's very much of like, everything's in a positive light, and I'm gonna get out of this hellhole that I'm in, and so long as I got my girl,
It's always a girl. It's always a
yeah,
girl.
it's always a girl, right? And you know what? I actually really liked Emilia Clarke as I think it's Kira is her name, with a Q, of course, in a very Star Wars-esque way that they
Where it's
spelt
like,
her name.
yeah, it's Akira, but like with a Q, because screw your conventions of like wording.
Yeah. At least in that way, it's very much very much like a galaxy far away. But yeah, it's like basically, Han Solo. The premise of the film, Han, he's an orphan, living off scraps and trying to get money to try and get off the planet that he's on, which is very much Corellia. And him and Kira managed to, like, get, like, I think it's like the I forget what it is, like the rocket fuel. Sorry, the hyperspace fuel. They managed to steal some and, like, use that in order to try and get off planet. But unfortunately, they're separated, and Han goes off on his own, and Kira goes off, back to where she was, being an orphan.
And then she
But
disappears, but then she
she
comes
disappears.
back.
Well, yeah, Han joins the Empire, the Imperials, which I actually really the Empire, which I actually really liked. I kind of like the notion that, like, okay, like, this is how he trains to become a good pilot. It's because he gets put onto, like, a regiment, and
It
he
makes
kind of trains.
logical sense.
Yeah, it makes logical. Except then they go on and say that, oh, he actually got kicked out of being part of the Empire because he was too rebellious and he had too much of a personality, and now he's just like an infantry person, just sent off to die, and he still doesn't have any experience in flying up until he meets Woody Harrelson's character, Tobias Beckett.
AKA the guy was gonna betray him since day one, but like it's obvious.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Like,
Once again, I think I like put it in my review. Like, this movie plays by the numbers. It doesn't do anything too special. You, like, once again, and I said it's basically a Fast and Furious film, but like in space, more or less.
Yeah, and you know, to be fair, like you know, there's like the one scene where it's like, oh, well, Chuck turned out to be Chewie. I really like that. Like again, you could kind of predict it from a mile away, but I was kind of immersed at that moment. Like, oh, it could be anyone, it could be anything. It's like, oh, it's Chewie. It's like, oh, okay. Like I kind of liked it. Like I liked how it was just like this thing, and that's how their interaction was. I think like the
See, once
interaction
again,
between
yeah, once again, that's how you do a good like fan reveal type of thing. Like that's like genuine. It's not the Solo like, ooh, Solo, your name. It's like the Chewie thing is more genuine in like how it approaches
in
that.
its execution.
Where it's like, hey, we know these characters, we want to respect these characters, and like we want to like reveal more information about them. You know?
Yeah. And then later on, like he's I'll help you out. And they go and do like a heist. The heist kind of fails. And they kind of get brought alongside this like I forget what the organization is. But all of a sudden, they're at the behest of Paul Bettany, who's also in this movie. Like it's really funny. Again, it kind of feels like they're just kind of running out of people to be in these films. It's like, who's someone we can get? Okay, let's pick Paul Bettany because he's kind of not really doing anything at this stage. No, to be fair, I like Paul Bettany, but like
once again, his character, like he's once again he's playing the cheesy like over the top villain type guy, but like we didn't see enough of him. Like I think there's like 2 maybe 3 scenes in total with him, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Like like,
yeah, exactly.
We don't really know his deal and what he's doing. He's just a rich guy who just puts people into things.
Yeah, well, he's supposed to be like the crime boss of like I think the second largest like crime organization. Like I think it's like the Huts, and then it's like this guy's organization. And yeah, the thing with it is like they're like, okay, like you fucked up with that last job. What are you going to do to repay us? And they're like, oh well, we're going to steal more, but we're going to steal it from these other guys, and we'll do the Kessel Run. Which is like the big thing that they talk about in the original Star Wars, that the Millennium Falcon did the Kessel Run in 12 parsecs or whatever it means. And you know what, like the whole thing from them kind of going in and being like, this film was a heist film, and it was really cool. Like I actually really liked aspects of the heist and them stealing the stuff and taking it off. The robot L3 3T. Oh man, that robot was so annoying throughout this whole ordeal.
This whole ordeal was an ordeal.
Yeah. Oh man, what, that robot was so
even the
annoying.
voice actor, like the voice of it, like the whoever voiced the character is very like annoying. Like the character was written to be annoying, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, like there's parts of it was it's like, oh, like what do you want? Oh, equal rights. It's like, I get it, you're a robot, but it's like they don't touch on that story so much. Like, it would be really cool, like in very much of a way that like they do it in like a lot of Isaac Asimov books. Isaac Asimov being a sci-fi writer, who deals with a lot of concept of like AIs coming to life. If anyone's seen iRobot, it is a very loose adaptation of the book, as in it's not really adapted, but it has like a character from the book in the film. But it deals with a concept of like AIs and the rights they have, and do we consider them a being who is on par with people? They kind of touch on that, but then they don't really do anything with it other than for gags. And then her character dies, and she's quite instrumental in piloting the ship and going doing the Kessel Run, and that's why it's a big deal, because Han has to step up and take him through this kind of visually crazy thing called the Maw, which has this creature in it that's trying to kill them and things like that. All of it is really cool. It's really cool to see. But yeah, the character itself very annoying. Chewie, really great. Surprisingly enough, like I actually didn't like Donald Glover that much in this film. I kind of felt like he was like a little bit too cheesy in this film.
Yeah, he's playing the like he was obviously being like I don't know, like because Donald Glover's playing Lando Calrissian, like the other black guy in Star Wars.
The only black guy in Star Wars, other than Saw Gerrera, and that's it.
Nah, in Finn. You know, the guy who done
Oh yeah, true, and
the
Finn. Yeah, true. They do have three.
the blandest character probably
Yes,
itself.
true.
But
Three black people in Star Wars confirmed.
so, anyways,
Um,
Lando is probably like obviously has the most personality, and he's probably obviously way more fan favorite than everyone else. Um, yeah, I don't know. I thought his performance was okay, but obviously it's like it was teetering on like parody, where it's like
yeah.
he's in a different film where it's like, oh no, I can't believe this, and there are certain scenes where like I think like because Chris Lord and Phil Miller obviously got kicked out of the film because they're more like comedy directors.
Yeah.
And obviously there's like one scene with like Lando where he like takes the ship, and I thought that was kind of funny. But even then, like I'm like, man, this is like the or Family Guy / Robot Chicken of Star Wars at some points.
Yeah, and yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, I actually really like Donald Glover as an actor and as a artist as well. But yeah, like I just kind of felt like this role, like he's perfect for it, but like I guess the execution of the character was like a little bit too over the top for my liking. Ironically, because I thought I wouldn't like Alden Ehrenreich as Han Solo, but it turns out like him and Chewie are once again like the better characters in this film, and I would have actually liked to see more of their shenanigans and escapades.
Yeah, you don't
but,
really see much with Chewie and Solo, and I feel like there should be more. Like I don't know, because I think they were trying to plan some sort of like extra movies with this whole
trilogy
thing,
or something.
but like
Yeah.
clearly like that probably won't pan out. But like
No.
and once again, like once again, there's so many other characters that are really side people. Like we haven't even talked like Woody Harrelson. Like obviously has a whole backstory, and then he has his like wife / girlfriend Val, and like there's all these.
Who's also from Westworld, which I totally didn't know as well.
And then you're like, wait a second, I know you. You're the girl who hacks everything, and you're OP in the show.
Yeah, and then you die immediately in this movie. No, but I liked her character in this film. But yeah, like again, like Woody Harrelson's character, yeah, it's very much what you said. Like you definitely knew this dude was gonna betray betray the hell out of them during like into the final moment.
You don't
with,
cast you literally don't cast Woody Harrelson not to play a person who will betray you because he's like sneaky. Like look at Woody Harrelson. He is not the type to be honest. Like
well, I mean, like I read earlier, on Wikipedia that like the character was based off Long John Silver from Treasure Island. So I mean, yeah, it's like what else do you need to know other than that? But
and then,
yeah,
and then you liked Amelia Clark's character, like Cora. I feel like she took too much of the spotlight when it came to the second part of the film. Like I feel like it felt like at her point, like at that point, it was more like her, like they're very much trying to explore her character as well with Han Solo's character.
I think they definitely wanted to kind of do this whole thing about like Amelia Clark and having her right. I think very much at the same time like they did a good job at not making her look like, oh, when you looked at her it was like Daenerys. I kind of really like that. Like I definitely could believe like, okay, this is like a unique, because you know how sometimes that happens, like you look at like an actor and it's like, oh, I'm supposed to think you're Batman. All right, I don't know. Like you seem way too much like someone I've seen in too many movies to make me think you're Batman. But like in this movie, like I very much could believe like, okay, she's like a unique character. She's a brunette, and it kind of explains why Han Solo, likes brunettes. Yeah, like her character, like they do say how she's like supposed to be the second in command, and the right hand of Dryden Voss. But that was like their attempt to try and show, okay, like this is why she's important. She's like pretty smart and has a good head on her shoulders. But I think the one thing in the end, like I kind of liked about it was like, again, spoilers. She ends up like okay, here's the thing. So like the organization that they work for is run by Darth Maul randomly.
Because we're gonna make this universe even smaller than it actually is, and that was one of the criticisms of the prequels, where it's like everyone is related to anything, being like, hey, the clones are also Boba Fett and Jango Fett, and like everyone's related to C-3PO and R2-D2 are actually made by Anakin. Like
Anakin, yeah.
That was the problem with the prequels, where it's like it feels like this huge galaxy is way too close to each other, and like that was one of the problems as well. It's like, why Darth Maul? Who knows? Like it could have been,
Yeah, well,
and like
actually,
were they trying to set up some sort of like Obi-Wan Kenobi spin-off from this?
well,
Like
to be fair, I actually really like the Jango Fett Boba Fett connection to the clone because it does kind of explain like the Mandalorian armor and stuff. I don't know if you actually just as a bit of a side note, I don't know if you saw like I went to Sydney Comic Con. And they showed I think it's the new TV series that they're going to be releasing. It's called Star Wars Resistance.
yeah, you look
Um,
at the likes to dislikes on that trailer on YouTube.
I actually haven't seen the trailer. Is it really that bad?
Oh, like after this, you'll see it and be like, everyone's gonna be like, you're gonna be like, wow.
Is it...
I think it's trying to be up to like what Call of Duty, whatever it was when Battlefield 1 was coming out, like 4 million dislikes, but it's not at that point. But still, it's gone low.
Is it? Oh, that's awful. Okay, well, Disney, when will you actually do things that I like? It's really weird because it's like, okay, cool, they're gonna explore some characters that like, oh, okay, oh, all right, yep, I'm just reading it now, and it's set after like the Return of the Jedi and set before the events of the Force Awakens.
It's
So of
always in
course,
that. It's always
God damn it!
yeah.
God damn it!
It's nothing before. It's nothing before. Everyone wants the old stuff. Old Republic.
Yeah, but like, why can't they make it 6 months after Return of the Jedi instead
Even
of
then, yeah.
6 months before The Force Awakens? Look, again, I've said it before. I didn't like The Force Awakens. I felt that it was like Episode 4 in HD or 4K, whatever you want to put it in. It's not that great of a movie, but like, again, it's like do things that people like because it's like what they called, I think, the previous series Star Wars Rebels, right? And so it kind of makes sense that they're calling this one the Resistance because that's what they call it in the Star Wars movies. But like, it's just now I'm just getting more angry.
It's not a review. It's solo. It's a review of like Star Wars at the current moment.
Look, you know what? That's Disney's fault for making a bunch of awful films. But you know what? The thing is, like, to get back to what I was saying, I really like this moment with Kira, where it basically, she tells Solo to go off and she'll catch up, and there's a big reveal that it's Darth Maul, and they're working for Darth Maul and all that. And then she just takes off on the ship because she's going to become the new head of this organization. And I think maybe that's where it was going to kind of lead into like a sequel / trilogy film. I don't know.
Where she's going to be ahead, and then like Solo has to be like, I have to stop you. Where love is scorn, where it's like, I used to love you, but now you're an evil lady, and now I have to like kill you or something.
Yeah, and I thought, you know what? That wouldn't be too bad. But the thing is, they're obviously not going to do it. And honestly, I don't think it was done like the best way. It's like, oh, then they have to introduce Darth Maul in it. And you know what? Like, I think...
And what after Clone Wars did to Darth Maul and things like that, it's like, how are you explaining this? How is he not aged? Like, is he one of those aliens that doesn't age like Yoda? I don't know.
Well, look, I think he had robot legs.
Yeah,
so
he did. He did. That's what I'm saying. Like, so someone would have been like, what the fuck?
Yeah. People who haven't watched, like, the Clone Wars or even, like, Rebels would have no idea.
Yeah, they must have seen that and been like, what?
Like, why does he oh, okay, he has robot legs. Okay, well, that's a thing now. But yeah, like, it's weird, but, like, I could see it happening. Actually, another thing I really hated the what is it?
The lady with the helmet.
Oh man, did that disappoint me? Not just not because she was like a helmet person, but just because helmet person. Sorry, like a I don't know what were they, marauders? But it's like, all right, cool. We have this rival gang of marauders, and oh, actually, they work for the rebels. It's like it was just like this really like
pretty lame.
It's a pretty lame. It's like, why couldn't they just be marauders? Why couldn't they just be a bunch of assholes that Han Solo kind of deals with? You know what? They do the whole thing where with Woody Harrelson's character where he's about to pull his gun out and Han shoots him first, and it's the classic to show that this is where it begins, where Han shoots first, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why couldn't it be in a very similar situation as like, oh, they're putting Han into like these situations where he has to be an asshole, but like, he is the thing with Han Solo's character. It's like, yeah, he does good things, but he only does them out of self-interest. And it would have been more interesting if they had have done like something like, oh, he ended up betraying these people because again, like he doesn't care about the rebels or the resistance or whatever they're being called now. Yeah, it was just really dumb. It's like also like the main actress who played the leader looks like she's 12, and I can't really take her seriously. Like a lot of the time, like when you have like these characters that look very much like, oh, they've come from the slums and stuff, but they just look like really beautiful and they've just cut out of like a makeup trailer. It just doesn't make any sense. Like at least with like Kira's character, it kind of makes sense that she looks like beautiful because she's been living like this lavish lifestyle, being like a criminal boss, second in command. With her character, it's like there's no dirt, there's no scars, there's no nothing. There's nothing that makes me think
Like that
this.
she's been on the job for longer than like a day.
Yeah, whereas like Woody Harrelson's character, he's got like a few like scars and he's got like he's really wrinkled, but that just could be Woody Harrelson.
Well, I know. I think he played it like he had some sort of limp or something like that. Like something like, yeah. Once again, like you can tell he's been through shit. Well, it's like,
yeah, like he's seen some shit. Yeah, exactly.
Even then, like the whole premise of the whole thing, that could have been the whole movie itself. Like, kind of get semi rid of Emilia Clarke's character, or like put it in the back burner, and you could have had this whole thing of like, you have the boss and everything, and then most of the the film could have been about these like marauders, and it's kind of like this whole like rivalry thing where it's like, instead of like they show it maybe like twice through the whole film. It could have been a whole film of just like these goddamn guys are stealing our score as well, and they could have made them, instead of being like, we're the resistance, we're the good guys. It could have been this whole thing of like, they go to the planet Kessler, they get all the fuel or whatever, and then but then the marauders there are there as well, and I think they are, if I remember correctly, but I don't remember, but like,
I think they put a tracking device on the Millennium Falcon,
yeah,
to try and keep a track of it for when it does the run, and then they attack them afterwards.
I know, but imagine if it was during the run, so it's like instead of like, it would have been like them have to deal with the Empire and the slaves and everything like that, but on top of that you got the marauders as well, and they're trying to steal it as well, so it have made this like Mexican standoff dynamic where it would have been like very energetic, instead of just having this robot rebellion and like killing a few things, and then like, and then Lando being like, oh, I'm gonna drag you on your feet, and that was pretty cringe. I kind of laughed.
Yeah. It's like, it's a robot. Just take out, like, I get it. And then, but still, I don't know. Lando's a pansexual now. But there's a thing. You saying that kind of would have made it cool if it turned out like the leader could have been like Kira, like in disguise. Wouldn't have that, like, not disguise, but rather like, that's the big reveal that like, instead of having Kira's character, she ends up being the marauder leader. At least that kind of makes a lot more sense in regards to why this character's constantly chasing after Han, and it's like kind of the classic thing about Star Wars is kind of like it's a large galaxy.
Once again, Star Wars has a lot of tropes.
Yeah, like I would have liked that a lot better. But yeah, and then it could have been like afterwards, like she goes and like but then like Darth Maul, that's when he comes and he's like, well, you killed my previous person, maybe you want the job and be my like right hand man or whatever. That's the temptation, because she's a bad person, and then when she interacts with Han, it's like, oh, maybe she starts to be good again, but then turns out, oh nope, she's bad anyway. I don't know. There could have been a lot of cool things they could have done with this film. They could have been better.
But once again, it was very like average, where it's like it's like very like, it's like a 7 out of 10, maybe 6 or something like that, where it says like it does its job, it can entertain, but it's not like anything that you're like, oh, that was cool. Aside from like, I think like, what did you feel about the Kessler Run? Because I enjoyed it, and once again, I feel like that was probably the highlight of the film.
Yeah, I think I'd agree. I think there's a lot of stuff in this film that, again, there's a lot, and I think your review of this film was pretty accurate. It's like, it's not as bad as people make it out to be. But again, it could be better.
It could have been worse.
yeah, and yeah, it could have been worse. And true, it could have been worse as well. But I guess the thing is like a okay film, and I've said it before, an okay Star Wars film is not good enough. Um, and I think there's so much really cool stuff in the Star Wars universe that they can do and write and execute, and I think they just need a better direction. They need a Kevin Feige to direct the next couple of films or something. Make your episode 9. I'm not gonna watch it because it's gonna be awful. We both know, and you listening right now,
Deep
that the
down.
next Star Wars, deep down, like you might like episode 8, but deep down that there's a lot of things wrong with it, and the next film is probably going to be trash as well. They probably, but I'm gonna let them deal with episode 9, and then hopefully they can start on a clean slate and
Get
do
rid of
something
Rey and Poe and all those characters.
cool. Well, Rey's not going to be in it. They already said that. What is it? What's her face isn't coming back after episode 9, so it's like, what's the point at that stage?
Yeah, like what's the point of it? Once again, it was kind of trouble from the start because they were just like, they just didn't plan it. They're just like, yeah, I guess.
Like imagine if they could have had the if not the acting chops, but at least the loyalty and the gumption of people to want to stick around for like 10 films, like kind of like the Marvel films, right? Like even if it's just cameos, they'll come in and do things and then will go away. They didn't really have it with these sets of films. There's just like people who from the get-go were like, oh well, I'm only sticking around for
the money and the fame. Like once again,
and the main movies, and then I'm out of here.
Yeah, pretty much, because it's one of those things where it's like, like even like Owen McGregor's like, hey, I want to come back to be Obi-Wan, and like Hayden Christensen, I think he goes to like Star Wars conventions and he really enjoys it. And that's the thing, a lot of these people do enjoy being part of the Star Wars fandom. I do not feel like the people who like people who played Rey and Finn or any of these characters are not going to be like someone like a Mark Hamill, where like in 30 years time someone's gonna be like, oh yeah, I can't believe I met the girl who played Rey. Like I feel like they're not even going to touch the fandom after Star Wars is done. They're not going to go they're not going to go to the conventions. They're just going to be like, oh, this was a stepping stone for my career. So
well, to be fair, I think they might. I think Daisy Ridley and Adam, they're pretty big actors. They might go to conventions, but yeah, I don't think they have the same kind of passion that like obviously the Star Wars community have. Like I don't think like I don't go to like all these like kind of conventions dressed up as like a stormtrooper or anything, but like I love the like Star Wars movies and series. Like I had like all these like Star Wars Legos and video game stuff. It's just a bit of a disappointment to see like things that I loved as a kid kind of being destroyed by people who don't really love the films and the series as a whole, or don't really understand it. But that's probably just going to be the end of my rant for Star Wars as it is now. But
well, that's the closest that we've ever got for an episode 8 review. So
yeah, well, look, one day we'll get that episode 8 review for you guys.
Once again, I do say when episode 9 comes out, we'll just do an episode 8 review.
With it, yeah, that works as well.
Like, look,
listeners,
guys,
if you guys want us to do an episode 8 review, just let us know. Comment below and give us a message. If there's any popularity, I might force myself to do another 2 hours. Cause I could probably rant about what's wrong about.
I feel like we can rant about it. Like it goes on. That movie goes on for 2 hours and a half. I feel like we could do that. We could do the whole film and just be like, you know what? No. It'd be like Mr. Plinkett reviews where they're like 3 hours, 5 hours long, where it's like, let me tell you how bad this is.
Easily could do
Cancer Bite is like a whole hour, like.
Oh yeah, definitely. Look, if you guys want us to do that, let us know because I'm more than happy to do so. But overall, to get back to Solo, it's a okay film. It's an average film. If you like Star Wars, it's actually not as bad as you think it is, and it's much better than it's much better and more coherent than episode 8. It's probably like on par with quality with episode 7.
See, a lot of people well, that's the thing. A lot of people when they rate a lot of these things, like I think there are a lot of people who really love Rogue One, and a lot of people who are like, it's not that great. Like, and once again, the problem with Rogue One are more the characters because they're not really memorable aside from like the robot.
The robot K2SO. You
Yeah,
see,
yeah, yeah.
I still remember what the robot's name is, but I don't remember what anyone else's. Actually, I don't mind the I think it's like Cass Cassio or Caden, or it's like the dude character who hangs out with K2SO. I like his character.
Mm.
His character's okay. Um, yeah, you look, Rogue One is a the second half of that film is good, or the last third. So I feel like the first third of the film is like setup, and then the second
It's like
part of the
it's like
film is,
random cut up setup.
yeah, and then the second part of the film is like, all right, we got to go meet Saw Gerrera, and oh hey, cool. Like the cool part is like obviously the planet blowing up, and it's like a, it's obviously they're showing like the proto, um, what is it, the proto Death Star. It doesn't completely destroy the planet. It just kind of like sets it to explode all of a sudden, which you'd think would be more productive for a giant super weapon, because then you could maybe like mine all the cool like elements and ores from it. But hey, what do I know? I don't live in the Star Wars future. Screw planets.
Exactly.
It's far more visually interesting to see the whole planet kind of collapsing. But that's the only cool part. Everything else in between is not that interesting. But then like the last third of the film's like pretty good, because obviously you have like that's when you have them actually going to the planet, and again it's them doing a heist film more or less. They're sneaking in. There's like a war happening in the background, and it's got like the coolest space battle yet in Star Wars, in my opinion.
Well, that's the thing. Speaking of like space battles, that's not a thing that you see in really Solo. Aside from like a few things here and there, and the Kessler Run, like you'd think like when you think of a Han Solo like spin-off film, you would think like dogfighting in the air and like these cool maneuvers and like like cool stuff with ships and stuff like that. You don't really see much of it. It's more like on the ground.
Yeah, you don't really, and you can kind of pass it off as being like, okay, look, he's just learning how to fly, and but that's the point where you're like, let's establish that he can fly by giving him something cool to do, right? Like this is what I was saying about how it was just so random that they're like they got him to join the Empire, but then they immediately kicked him off. Which I get, like it kind of makes sense, like he's got a personality, but again, it's like it could have been like, oh, he joined for 2 years, and then they might have had like a cool montage where he's flying TIE fighters and he's like, okay, maybe he's flying like a spaceship with full of poop, because that's all these characters do. They're just like janitors, and they transport dumb shit like that. And he's just like a basic pilot, and then he becomes a actual fighter pilot, and then he gets kicked off because he speaks out, and he's like, you know what, maybe the Empire ain't that great, and then they kick him out. That'd be a far more interesting way of like explaining why he's so confident about being a pilot, and why outside of him doing that one maneuver with like that shuttle that he did once, and then he uses the technique again later.
He's like, oh, this worked, I'll do it again.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, it's one of those things that they kind of set up, and oh, hey, look, they're using things that they showed earlier. Isn't that smart of a film? No, it's not. I'll tell you right now, it's not.
Pretty much.
But yeah, episode 9, it's probably going to be trash. Let's face it. But hopefully the next couple of films is all right. But anyways, Solo, just watch it if you like Star Wars, I guess, and you got nothing better to do at the moment.
And basically, just pray for the best for Star Wars.
Yeah, more or less.
But yeah, aside from that, that's going to be us for this week. Remember, you can always listen to us on Stitcher. You can also listen to us on Spotify. No, wait, is it? No, yeah, it's Spotify. It's Spotify, yeah? Yeah, it is. Damn right it is. iTunes, and also on YouTube, where we segment them on the YouTube channel Marketing Movies. And to this date, Henry Cavill is still our Superman. So until next time, see ya.
Catch ya.